begin here a radial design. So radial design means a design around a center point that is typically symmetrical. So what we need to do is actually some paper folding to help guide us through this project, to make it a little easier on ourselves. So I have a square sheet of paper. This is 12 inches by 12 inches. You want to take the bottom and go ahead and fold it to the top. And really try to line it up as close as you can so you make the edges come together. I like to hold it, slide my finger down through the middle, then go off either side to fold it. Okay, once you do that, go ahead and now fold it like a book. Again, line up those edges. All right, and I like to open it back up so now you see a crisscross like a plus sign. And then you want to take the corners now, fold them like tacos. So this corner can go up to this corner. And if it doesn't line up perfectly, that's okay, but you really want to try to get it as close as you can. All right, so now what that did is that created a diagonal crease, and I'm going to fold it this way again, like a taco, corner to corner. Alrighty, so I naturally, just by doing some paper folding, I've created a radial design. I have a center point right here. I want you to go ahead and mark center, which is a little baby dot, so you know that's where center is. So I have a vertical line, I have a horizontal line, and I have two diagonal lines. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're just going to really focus on this top left section right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ruler here. And I'm going to trace over my crease mark. So vertical line, and I'm going to do it horizontally as well. I'm going to leave the diagonals alone for now. All right, what I want you to do is on this diagonal crease right here coming in from center, or out from center I should say, on your ruler I want you to find the 2-inch mark on your ruler. So we're going on the inches side, 2 inches. I want you to put the 2 on the dot, follow that diagonal crease, and make a mark at 0. So we know this is 2 inches. It starts at 0, goes to 2. Then I want you to trace this part of the diagonal with your ruler. So just follow your crease, make a nice straight line. From here, I need you to connect the top of this vertical to this dot here. So you will be making a diagonal straight line. And you're going to want to connect this dot to this over here. So this is your horizontal line. So it should look something like this. Okay, next step, we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to go up to the outer corner. So I'll just put my ruler here. I'll start at 0, follow your diagonal crease, mark it at 2 inches, and go ahead and draw a line up to that 2-inch mark. And now you will connect this to here. So this is the top of my vertical line, and you will connect the horizontal up here to this point. So again, you're making a little bit of a diagonal. So this is how it should look right now. You've created like a diamond shape in the middle here. And then the very last step that I need you to do is I need to take your ruler, and you're going to connect this corner up to this corner. Alrighty, so we need to create this exact same design in every section of our piece. That's what's going to create that radial design, that radial balance. So the easier way for me to do it, actually, instead of having to draw it 3 more times, is I'm just going to go ahead and darken all of these lines. So I'm using my ruler and I'm pressing pretty hard. Okay, so what I will do now is I will actually fold the left side of the paper over onto the right side of the paper. And I'm going to use my ruler here, and I'm going to do some rubbing. Now when I do this rubbing, I actually prefer a wooden ruler, but I don't have one on me right this second, so I'm just making it work here with my plastic one. Notice how close to the top I'm holding this ruler? I'm not back here doing this. This does nothing. So you want to give it a rubbing, and I'm just focusing, I can actually see the lines through the paper. I'm focusing only on the lines that I can see and nowhere else. And what should be happening is the lines over here should be transferring over to this side. I can actually already see it happening. I just need to do a little bit of rubbing. It might be hard for you to see it here on this camera, but in real life, I'm sure you will be able to see it. Now, some kids actually get a little out of breath doing this because they're pressing so hard. So it's okay. So now I can actually see my lines a little bit, and even if I can't see all of them, if I can see the gist of it, I'm gonna go ahead and just trace over them. And I'm gonna go ahead and press very, very hard here. This is one time I'm gonna tell you, you don't need to draw light to start with, now that we have the design already in place. So I'm just moving my pencil back and forth to give it a heavier mark. All right, so there we go. Now I have a symmetrical image of side to side here, and now I need to get this design onto the bottom half of my paper. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fold the whole thing down, and again, do another rubbing until I can see most of it, and then I'll just trace over the design. All right, so I can see it here. Again, I know it's probably hard to see on the camera, but I can see it. So once you're able to see it on your own, you can stop rubbing and just go ahead and trace. Alrighty, so you have created a radial design now. So after this is all done, my middle lines, my vertical line and my horizontal line, they're actually a little light right now compared to the other dark lines that I made. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace over these to make them a little heavier so I don't lose them, because I am going to need. Okay, after you have your design, everybody make sure your name is on the back, and we are going to begin the painting process. We are going to begin the painting process, but before we do that, because there's a lot going on the paper, I want us to label the sections so we have a guide to help us while we paint. So you can see I'm doing very lightly with my pencil. I would go ahead and label like the letter T, where you're going to be painting in tints, the letter S for shades, and then the letter P for pure colors, so you know where to go. And I will give you a guide to help you out here so you aren't just labeling them willy-nilly. Just remember to keep them fairly light so we don't see them when you do paint over it. Okay, now comes color. So we are going to have to do some color mixing. So actually where I would start first is your medium. So that would be your pure color. So we're going to do one section that is light, so you'll mix the color with white. That'll be your tint, that's your light. You'll do one section that's a shade, color with black, that's your dark, and you'll do one medium, which is just going to be your regular pure color. So I have, notice on my plate, I just have white, black, and one color, even though it's in a bunch of these little grooves here, it's just blue the whole time. So what I'm going to do first is start with my plain color, because that's the easiest. I don't have to do any color mixing. So I'm just going to dip my brush right into the blue, and anywhere that I wrote down labeled pure color, I'm just going to paint plain old blue, pure color. Now when I paint, I want this to be as smooth as I can make it. Notice how I have a placemat under my paper because I do have to hit the edges. I'm using a flat brush. This is the brush I prefer. If you prefer a different type of brush, you can, but a flat brush I like because I can get, like I can make these larger strokes, but then when the time comes to get up near the edge, I can put the brush on its side, on the tippy toe, and really work the edges. And I just drag that down into the shape. So this lesson, not only is it testing how well you're going to mix your paints, but it's testing how well can you use a brush. How delicate can you be with a brush? Do you have control over how to move it? How to get the marks that you want? Take your time, try to create really, really crisp edges as you paint. And we don't want white showing, so everything on this paper should be covered up with paint by the end. If you notice there's like some scratchy white spots still happening, you got to fill that in. Okay, so now that I have that complete, I've done all my pure colors. Now I am going to have to start mixing. So I'm going to start with my tints, so the lighter version. So I'm rinsing my brush here, wiping it on the side of the bucket to get the excess water off. And you're going to want to get a lot of this mixed together. So you can mix directly onto your tray. However, there's not a lot of space here. So a lot of the times I just go grab paint mixing scraps and I just use these to mix on. So I think for my tint, I'll go ahead and mix on the tray, but when the time comes for my shade, I'll have to use a separate sheet of paper. So I am going to scoop up a lot of this white. And the reason I'm mixing a lot right now is so I don't have to remix if I run out, because remixing can be tricky when you have to mix the exact same color as the color that came before it. So I'm scooping pretty much all of my white here into the center, and I'm going to get some blue. And I'm going to go ahead and swirl this together. And this becomes my tint. Remember, a tint is when you mix a color with white and the color becomes lighter. So now I have this beautiful sky blue happening here. And you really want to get it all mixed up. Don't let it be streaky. You want it to look like a brand new color. And this is where you will be to create all your tints. So now look at your piece, and anywhere you labeled light or tint, this is where you're going to paint. So my brush is pretty flooded with paint right now, so I'm just going to try and scrape some of it off here in these sections so I have a bit more control. There we go. And now I'll just go and I dip it into my tippy toe just right into the paint, and now I can have more control over this as I paint it in. So again, don't lose your patience here. Really focus on those crisp edges and smooth strokes. All right, now friends, I'm down here in the corner. Like, to get this crisp edge next to that darker blue, even for me, it's tricky. So please, please, please slow down and take your time when you're meeting those edges. All right, so next I shall begin with my shades. So that is the color mixed with black. Now I've lost space on my paint palette, so now I'm just gonna move here to a scrap sheet of paper. And you're gonna need black and your color. So I'm just gonna scoop up some of my color. And again, you wanna mix a lot here so you have enough for the whole piece. That way you don't have to remix. All right. So I'm just going to swirl this blue and black together, put the black into the blue. It's going to become nice and dark. Now the key here though with a shade, black really transforms the color quite quickly. So you are going to want the ratio to be more color in here, less black, just so it doesn't look too dark. So that's why I'm scooping up a little bit more of this blue to throw in here. All right, so it's this beautiful like midnight blue. I quite like it. And this one's gonna be the trickiest because you're gonna have a lot of edges you gotta meet up. So again, I'm just gonna kind of wipe my brush to get some of this paint off into these open areas. Okay, now I'll go back in and really give it my attention. All right, once you feel you're complete, go in and just look, really make sure you got all your edges nice and clean. Like I can tell on mine I have these little baby white spots that I gotta fill in. Give it that extra care and attention. So I'm just gonna wait for this to dry. Otherwise, I'm pretty much complete here. So I've created a radial design. I've shown value, tints, and shades. And by doing that, I've created almost a 3D optical illusion of form, 3 dimensions, just by painting in shapes. So you're tying in those elements of art that we have learned: line, shape, form, color, value, space, and texture. And we've created just a lovely design. Okay, here is your radial design, tints and shades assignment.